Do you remember these things? I'm just old enough that I do remember using these. I'm not sure why I have a Sound of Music 8-track, but got it somewhere. I'm just old enough to remember these. They were just leaving as I was growing up, and so I do remember using 8-tracks. In fact, when I got my first car, this was the first thing that I wanted to put in it. Not this one exactly, but one very similar. An 8-track player was the first thing I wanted to put in my car, because then I could listen to 8-tracks, or I could put that thing in it that would allow you to listen to cassette tapes, because cassette tapes had just come out and they were really cool, so we were using those instead. You could adapt your 8-track to play a cassette tape. Then, after a while, I got the first Walkman that was around, and it was bigger than this. It had a strap on it, and it hung on your shoulder, and you had headphones. You carried it around like a purse almost. Then Walkman became smaller and smaller, and then eventually, of course, things kept changing until we came up with these things. The interesting thing to me is that this and this do the same job. They are technically very different, but they do the same job. They allow you to take your music wherever you want to go and hear whatever you want to listen to. Things change in some big ways, but then again, really things don't change, because it was still about listening to music. I think that's a pretty good illustration of where we are right now. There's some big things that have changed, and in fact the government came out today and said these changes are going to be here for a while. So there are some things that have changed. We have to adapt. We have to go from this to this somehow. But the good news is there are some things that never change. Hebrews chapter 13 verse 8 tells us that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. What that tells me is that God still loves us, God's still looking after us. Those big things that we've always trusted in haven't changed. We might need to adapt to our circumstances, but the big things are still the way they've always been. Don't allow yourself to think that everything has fallen apart just because a few things have. Former President of the U.S. Jimmy Carter once said, "We must adapt to changing times and still hold on to unchanging principles." We are in changing times, but there are some unchanging principles that we need to find and hold on to. And when we do, we'll get through the changing times better.